It's time for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the award-winning broadcast covering fishing, hunting, and outdoor recreation throughout the great Northwest. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, producing a legacy of innovation since 1969, by Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter, and by Loophole, America's optical authority. Also sponsoring the show every week is Shiloh Inn & Suites, offering affordable excellence throughout the West. Mardon Resort, the place to fish and hunt in eastern Washington, and the Wallowa County Chamber of Commerce, where nature is on display in Northeast Oregon all year long. And now, let's head into the field with your host, John Cruz.
I'd like to tell you I've been out there fishing and hunting, but the fact of the matter is, I'm recovering from surgery. That's right, I tore my bicep tendon right off the bone. And as much as I'd like to say I did it wrestling a bull elk to the ground or fighting a 300-pound sturgeon, the truth of the matter is, I was trying to move a spare tire in the trunk of my car, which I didn't think was bolted in, and it was. So, I'm in a cast for about 3 more weeks. I'm on some pain meds from time to time, and I'm just kind of gimping along, as some of my friends say, but that doesn't stop me from putting together this show and sharing the outdoors with you. And we've got a really unique concept coming up this week. We're talking about outdoors television. We're going to get a hunting report from none other than Randy Newberg. He's the Montana hunter with the very popular television show called Fresh Tracks on the Sportsman Channel. And this show, what I love about Randy's show, Fresh Tracks, is it's all about do-it-yourself hunting on public land. And guess what? Randy doesn't always tag out. He's a real hunter just like you and me. Nothing fake here. Have you ever wondered what it takes to put your own outdoors television show together? Well, we've got the person who can answer that question for you. Her name is Michelle Sherman. She is the president of Bulletproof Media, LLC, and she's a consultant for those who want to be a star on outdoors television. We'll go in depth with Michelle about exactly what it takes from start to finish to get a show on TV and keep a show on TV. It's not an easy thing to do, but if you got a big dream, you can do it. Lance Mers is going to join us to talk about Missouri River walleye fishing in Montana and a lure you might want to use while you're doing it. We've also got news about a major outdoor retailer shutting its doors on Black Friday and encouraging their employees to go play outside instead. Also news about a charging Montana moose dropped dead in its tracks with a 9mm pistol. Yes, you heard that right. A little 9mm stopped this moose. And we've got field reports from all over the Northwest covering both hunting and fishing. In addition to that, we'll be telling you about some upcoming events, which includes several Ducks Unlimited banquets coming up later this month, and a chili cook-off taking place at the East Wenatchee Sportsman's Warehouse store on the 21st. Why am I excited about this one? Well, I get to be one of the judges, and I have a feeling I'm going to be pretty well fed. But before we get any further into this unique broadcast about outdoors television and more, we are going to check in with David Sparks. He brings us Sportsman Spotlight every week, courtesy of the Northwest Ag Information Network. This week, David talks about the importance of firearm safety this hunting season.
In a recent hunting fatality in the Northwest, a father and son were hunting in foggy conditions with poor visibility, and the father accidentally shot his son. I called firearms expert Al Strupp and asked about safety. David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight.
I think the first thing you want to do is just follow the gun safety rules. You always treat a gun as it's loaded, and you want to watch where you point it and keep your finger off the trigger till you're ready to shoot. That's just standard rules. You can go through the gun safety course. The state offers that to anybody before they go hunting. Everybody has to go through that now. That's required by law.
Apparently in the hunting situation, the father-son, it was foggy. Any thoughts about how to avoid such a tragedy?
I'm not sure what the circumstances was, whether if he was just standing there unloading his gun and he shot him, then obviously he wasn't paying attention what he was doing, and he was not pointing a gun in a safe direction. That's the first thing you always do. You always want to keep the barrel of your gun pointed in a safe direction, okay? In the case of fog, it sounds to me like he may have mistook him for a deer and shot him. I mean, that's what it sounds like. And here again, it comes down to one of the basic firearm rules, and that's be sure of your target and what is behind it. Some people get quite excited when they're out hunting, and they kind of throw that factor out the window, and that's what gets them in trouble. It all comes down to basic firearms rules, and if they follow those, they're going to be okay. There's not going to be an issue. You can find those firearm safety rules just about any place online, and if you follow them, everything should be pretty safe.
Farmer Karen Lustig talks about her family's relationship with Northwest Farm Credit Services.
We first started there 13 years ago. We were at a point in our business where we had gone through some downturns with markets and those type of things, and kind of really at a point where we were at our low spot. And that's really when Northwest Farm Credit came in and said, we believe in you. And they are the ones that, stood behind us, gave us not only the funding, but the confidence that we could do this. We could make it through the downturn, and we did.
Karen often recommends Northwest Farm Credit Services to other producers.
Farm Credit said, no, let's work through this together, and it did work, and we have expanded and grown because of that. So Farm Credit's there, whether it's an uptime or a downtime, Farm Credit's always there for us.
Northwest Farm Credit Services, customer owned, customer driven.
Tired of the same old fishing hole? Then head to Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Enjoy a weekend on the glacial waters of Wallowa Lake, where you can troll for the deep water excitement of kokanee or cast your line for some trout fishing fun. Bring your float tube or canoe and enjoy fishing in some of Wallowa County's small lakes. Or don your waders and step into the clear waters of the Wallowa, Imnaha, or Grand Ronde rivers. Early to bed, early to rise, fish all day, and there'll be no need for lies when you fish the waters of Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Visit us online at wallawacountychamber.com.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. We have been talking about, outdoors television, and we are going to talk to an outdoors television personality who has made it in the industry. His name is Randy Newberg. He is the host of Fresh Tracks. You can catch on the Sportsman's Channel every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Also, Mondays at 5:30 a.m. and Fridays at 2:30 a.m. Randy, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome aboard.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure, John. Always a pleasure. I appreciate you opening up your airwaves for me and us sharing some time here.
Well, I'll be honest, Randy. We just wanted to get you on board to get a field report, more or less. I understand you've been hunting. We want to know where you've been and how you've been doing.
Yeah, I've been on the road a lot, like the last 6 weeks. I know a lot of your listeners are going to say, gee, I really feel sorry for that guy. But the season started, I went up to Alaska and hunted Sitka blacktails in August. And from there, I went to New Mexico for archery pronghorn. And I've been in Wyoming and in Montana doing archery elk. And then I just got off a 2-week jaunt down to New Mexico for a couple elk hunts down there where friends had some tags. So it's been busy.
Oh, my gosh. The thing I love about you, Randy, is that your show and what you're all about is basically do-it-yourself hunts on public lands. And I've got to ask, the Wyoming hunt looked a little bit grim on your Facebook page. I didn't see any fresh kills. I saw a very, very old skull of a very dead elk.
Yeah, that deadhead that we found there, that the porcupines and squirrels had eaten the antlers off for the most part. But that was right on a little bench where we had a very close encounter. It would have been the largest bull I'd ever taken with rifle or bow. And I had 2 camera guys with me, and I told one guy, stay back, and me and the other guy moved forward. And the bull's coming in up this little gully, about maybe 10-foot depression. And I told the camera guy, let's move around this tree. We'll have a better shot angle. And when we stepped around the tree, there's 4 cow elk bedded right there. We almost stepped on them.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I'm like, Randy, you should have just stayed where you were. It might not have been the perfect shot, but it was this, I just want better footage. And I'm like, oh, no. So as our souvenir, we found that dead head laying right there. So it's that's all we had to show for that Wyoming hunt.
That's one of the things I love about your show on the Sportsman's Channel is the fact that you don't always tag out. I mean, it's a really honest show. Sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't.
Oh, that's exactly it. And, a lot of people are like, well, you must hide the ones where you don't tag out, or you must hide the bad shots. Like, no, we show it all, warts, bumps, and all. And one of the episodes people saw a few years ago, my brother hit a tree down in Colorado when he shot at a big elk. And he's like, can we edit that out? I'm like, not on our show. I mean, yeah, he's my younger brother, so obviously I'm not going to cut him any slack. But no, it's just the way we do it. We want it to reflect how it happens for the average hunter in the West, and whether that's the times where everything goes your way and you look way smarter than you really are, or the times where just nothing goes your way and you get humbled. I think people can relate to that and say, yeah, I've been there.
No, and Randy, that's why your show has been on the air as long as it has. So, again, we're talking about Fresh Tracks with Randy Newman. Great show on the Sportsman's Channel. But you've got a lot of other things going on, Randy. On your website, you've got a new e-guide about elk hunting on your own. Tell me about that.
Yeah, what that is, John, is when I do seminars or I travel and even the emails and stuff, a lot of people ask me, how do you find all these elk on public land? I hunt public land and I don't run into elk. So what we try to do is just do a quick overview that's a little bit of a prelude to a book that I'm working on with a publishing company.
Oh, my.
Yeah, and it's about how we find these elk on public land, because I always tell people, if you can't find one, you can't put one in your freezer. All the tips, all the tactics, all the new calls, the gadgets, the gizmos, none of that does you much good if you can't find the elk.
Right.
And so really that e-guide, if you go out to randynewberg.com, you can download that e-guide. And if you use the promo code HUNTTALK, you'll get it for free.
Oh.
You don't use the promo code HUNTTALK, it's $9.95. So your listeners use the promo code HUNT and TALK, and they'll get it for free. We talk about kind of our approach to it, and then we talk about some of the equipment we use, because a lot of people, for whatever reason, want to know, well, what pack does he use? What boots does he wear? What rifle does he shoot? What binoculars? Da-da-da. So we go into a little bit of that. I think it's 30 pages. It's a pretty easy read, but I think most people who hunt public lands will get a little bit of benefit out of it, whether they're a beginner or someone who's hunted longer than I have.
Well, there you go, folks. Just for listening to our show, you just save yourself $10. Randy, one more time, what's that promo code so they can download that e-guide?
Yep, it's Hunt Talk, like hunting and talking. So put that together in the promo code box, and you're going to get it for free.
All right. Again, the website, randynewberg.com. Let's talk about something else. You're a radio guy yourself. You've got Hunt Talk Radio, you've got podcasts, and you've had some really interesting guests. Tell our listeners more about that.
We started a podcast in July, and you kind of pointed me that direction with even more enthusiasm about radio when you and I visited. When was it, in March?
Yeah, at the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Rendezvous.
Yep, and with that, I was just jumping into the podcast idea, and so now we've really hit our stride, and every other Wednesday we released a new one, and I've been very fortunate to have guests who are some of the leaders in the conservation world, and the feedback so far has been excellent. It's been growing and growing and growing, and I often tell my wife, I'm not sure why you don't want to listen to me. This morning, 15,000 people downloaded my podcast. Why do you not want to listen to me? But they do. But so it's great. And if people want to find the links to it, you can go out to randynewberg.com, and there's, whether you are an iPhone guy or a Droid person, the link is there for you to download from iTunes or Stitcher. And what we do is we kind of coordinate it with our web forum. We have that big web forum called hunttalk.com. And so we go out to the forum and ask the viewers out there and the members out there, who do you want for guests? What do you want for questions? And so a lot of that stuff that we're doing on the podcast is a reflection driven by the folks who are participating on our forum.
And if it makes you feel better, Randy, my wife doesn't listen to anything I do either. So I think it's a wife thing. It's not just you. It's not just me. I think it's just being married. Our wives listen to us more than enough. They don't care to listen to anything else we have to say.
Yeah, after almost 27 years, my wife has heard more of me than she probably wants to hear in the rest of her life. So.
Yep, my wife's in the same boat.
For putting up with me.
Randy, we are running out of time, but folks, I got to tell you, you've got to go to Randy's website. It's randynewberg.com. He puts on a great show. It's Fresh Tracks with Randy Newberg. Catch it on the Sportsman's Channel every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m., Mondays 5:30 a.m., and Fridays, if you're up late, 2:30 a.m. And go to his Facebook page, too. It's Randy Newberg, Hunter. Randy Newberg, Hunter. You'll find links to all of this stuff we've talked about here on this interview. Randy, always love having you on the show. Thanks for the update on how things have been going with you.
Thanks so much for having me. Best of luck to you and to all your listeners this fall.
Backcountry hunters and anglers, the men and women working hard to keep public lands in public hands. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
Leupold Gold Ring Optics are built to perform at the highest level, shot after shot, year after year. Our rifle scopes, binoculars, spotting scopes, rangefinders, and more always come through when you need them most. That's why our American-built products have a lifetime guarantee. Or as we like to say here at Leupold, they are guaranteed for a lifetime of performance, not a lifetime of replacement. Find out more about our top quality gear and our lifetime guarantee at Leupold.com. Leupold, America's optics authority.
Need a lightweight camp stove for your next adventure? The new Striker Series stove from Camp Chef is the perfect solution. 2 models of this single-burner stove let you cook using propane or isobutane. The heat ring technology built into the stove's cookware lets you boil water in less than 2 minutes. And like everything else in the Camp Chef line, the Striker Series stove is built tough. If you hike, paddle, hunt, or fish and cook while you do it, you're going to love the Striker Series stove. Find it at your local sporting goods store or at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors. We're back with John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again, Lance Mers. Lance, it is fall, and a lot of folks are going after walleye. This really, really is a good time of year. I was actually checking fishing reports around the Northwest, ran across one from Dale Gilbert out of Montana. He's actually a Max Pro guide, and he's been fishing the Missouri River, and he has caught a couple of dandies out of there. If you were to go to the Missouri, which is a great walleye fishery, what would you be using right now?
Any of our walleye products, of course, John, but one of them in particular that I want to talk about is called the Max Lure Cha-Cha Crawler. You know, it's basically the best for open water trolling. It comes in 16 different styles and a size 4 hook. The hooks are gapped 2.5 inches apart, so it allows the walleyes to stay on the bite and stay on the hook.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that. Again, this Cha-Cha Crawler, it's got 2 hooks. It used to be that you would, put one hook in the nose and you put that other hook in the body, and you'd be really careful not to go ahead and bunch it up, that you wanted that night crawler to basically lay straight. But now I've been seeing more and more anglers letting that second hook just kind of go free, and it seems to work.
Well, it is, but it's a personal preference too. I mean, I've seen both happen. Personally, I like to have that trail hook into my bait. But the other cool thing about this lure is that it has 2 pill floats on it. So it gives you some natural buoyancy in the water, so it's not consistently hitting the ground. That's what your bottom walker, bottom bouncer, or whatever it is you like to call it, that's what that's for. But keeping that lure up just off of the bottom is going to allow those walleye to strike a lot better.
And like all of these Max Lure walleye products, this one has got a smile blade, which spins at those ultra slow speeds, and some awesome colors too. In fact, the one that you've got with us today is this kind of pink purple. That's great color scheme. I have no doubt that would work great this fall.
Absolutely.
All right, well, there you go, folks. It's the Max Cha-Cha Crawler. Next time you're going walleye fishing, need a little buoyancy, need a little flash, and need to get some walleye on the boat, try this lure out. Look for it at your favorite sporting goods dealer or online at maxlure.com.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after, whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
Walleye anglers all over the Northwest are raving about the new Smile Blade Spindrift Walleye Lure made by Max Lure Company. Lance Mers is with us here to tell us more about it.
This lure is fantastic. We've got the patented Smile Blade. We've got a pill float that keeps it just off of the bottom where the fish like to bite. And that Spindrift hook is absolutely phenomenal. You can tip it with any kind of bait.
Tip it with a crawler, tip it with a leech, whatever you tip it with, it's going to catch more fish. It's the Smile Blade Spindrift Walleye Lure, only from Max Lure Company.
Backcountry hunters and anglers, the men and women working hard to keep public lands in public hands. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. So, some of you out there have probably got a GoPro, we'll say, and you've gone out with your buddies hunting or fishing or having some sort of epic adventure outdoors, maybe even build a couple of YouTube shows. And you think, I'd like to have a show on TV, maybe on the Sportsman's Channel or the Outdoor Channel or something else. Well, if you've ever thought that, I've got just the person to talk to. Her name is Michelle Sherman. She's the owner of Bulletproof Communications, and she's kind of a guru, a consultant for people who want to be on TV in the outdoors industry. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I love that word guru. That's awesome.
Well, yeah, consultant, guru, say what you will, but either way, you've been through this with quite a few clients. The most notable one I know of is Randy Newberg, who has some great outdoors TV that's out there right now about hunting on public land. But let's say somebody approaches you, especially after they hear this, and say, hey, I want to have a show. What do I need to do? What are you going to tell them?
Yeah, most people that approach me, they're approaching because of passion. It's their dream, right?
Sure.
So it's hard to have that conversation with someone when you're talking about their passion and their dream, because they're speaking from their heart and not necessarily from their brain.
So are you the person that likes to stomp all over people's dreams with a cold dose of water or reality, should I say?
Right. I tell my clients I'm very honest and truthful. So it comes out. When you start talking to people about the reality of having your own TV show, then they start talking through it, and it starts kind of dawning on them. First of all, the money.
Right.
I think a lot of people underestimate how much money it takes, especially if you want to be on national TV. Now, a lot of people, I encourage people to do webisodes, YouTube webisodes, or other platforms like Carbon TV is out there now. That's not such a bad thing.
Okay, well, let's talk through this a little bit. That's very interesting to me. So a webisode, is that basically you have your own YouTube channel and you get your own followers and you're kind of perfecting your craft, so to speak?
Right, exactly. It's almost like taking baby steps, and like you say, get that audience built up, get those followers built up, get that Facebook page, because when you go to sponsors, that's what they're looking for. They're going to ask you, how many Instagram followers do you have? How many Twitter? How many Facebook? They're going to ask you all this stuff because they want to know what deliverables you're going to bring them if they give you, thousands of dollars. So by starting slow and starting small and learning the craft and learning the trade and doing, web series, then maybe you can graduate to putting out, more money for a national network.
Well, and let's talk about that for a minute, because it is, unfortunately, folks, all about money when you're talking about places like the Outdoor Channel or the Sportsman's Channel. I remember my first SHOT Show going to one of their booths. I don't remember which one anymore, but they had a brochure, and it told you exactly how much it costs to have a show for a season. And basically, back then in 2010, it ranged anywhere from $50,000 to, like you said, $100,000, and that's just to get on the air, isn't it?
Right. A lot of people don't realize the pay-to-play model that is in outdoor TV. It's a unique model. Not every network actually has this. AMC, History, they're not like this at all. So we're very unique, and people come in and are like, oh, $100,000. That's just to have your show on the air, not to mention the production cost and the cost of actually doing the hunts or the fishing trip, and then marketing.
Right. Well, I think a lot of people have this image. I remember the first time I ran across some folks who basically had a show. I was on a guided fishing trip. This was like 20 years ago with my dad in British Columbia. And the day we were flying out, this guy and his wife and another guy come in, their production guy, and we have this conversation. They're basically like, yeah, we're here. They're hosting us for free to film this show up here at the resort. And not only that, they're going to pay us X $1,000s. And I'm thinking, God, I wish I had a face for TV instead of radio. I'm doomed. This sounds wonderful.
Right. That sounds lucky.
Well, it does sound lucky, but The fact of the matter is, I think a lot of people have that disconnect where they think that's how it works, but you're right. You've got to pay to get on the air, and then you've got equipment. Now, equipment has come down in price, but still, that's a big investment along with the talent to use that equipment.
Right, and I think that's where a lot of TV shows tend to cut their corners first, is not necessarily on the equipment. Like, they know they want to buy the top of the line. And nowadays, everything is 4K, right? And those 4K cameras are pretty darn expensive. But so they go and buy the top of the line cameras, but then they go hire someone right out of high school or college who says that they have the video suite on their MacBook Pro and they can put it together.
Oh boy!
And yeah, and that's really where I think a lot of TV people who want to be on TV really have a huge disconnect. Is if you want a quality product, then you got to pay to have a quality person put that product together. And it costs, it can cost anywhere between $50,000 to another $100,000 just for production.
Oh my gosh. So we're up to, we'll just say anywhere from $100 to $200,000 at this point, and you're not even on the air because you still have to pitch the concept to one of these channels. I mean, they don't always say yes, do they?
No, a lot of people, they tend to ask the wrong questions. And by that, I guess, we all have these ideas in our head of what we can do, right, or what our best effort is and what we think the best idea is. However, we forget to ask the network what they want. I have yet to see anyone ever come up to Sportsman Channel and say, hey, what is it that you guys are missing? What holes can I fill?
Wow, that's turning it completely on its head. And when you say it, it seems so simple and so obvious, but you're right. Everybody's like, I've got a great idea. You need to buy into my idea. That's just gold right there.
Right. Like it's always you need to listen to me and never how do I listen to you? So if someone came up to me and said that question, what holes need to be filled, and I was running a TV network, I would say, well, what holes don't need to be filled is whitetail.
Right.
Let's not do another whitetail show.
Right.
But I do like niche programming. For example, Pigman, all about pig hunting. Or, for example, Randy Newberg, all about DIY hunting public land. Mm-hmm. So what niche can you do that isn't already being done? Maybe it's an upland bird show. Very hard to do. Can get boring. But maybe you have a different idea of how you can spin that and make it fun and exciting.
Wow. Great advice. Folks, we're talking to Michelle Sherman. She is the owner of Bulletproof Communications. She's a consultant for folks who want to get on television in the outdoors industry. Let's talk about one other thing. Does talent matter? Because I'll be honest, I've seen some horrific shows, and they usually last about a year, and then they're done. So I got to ask, is it just a matter of having a pretty face and a big wallet?
Yeah, a lot of people think that they are good on TV, and the reality is they aren't. So you need to surround yourself with honest people like myself that will tell you the truth and tell you, maybe you're better off doing something behind the scenes or whatever. Maybe your wife is actually better in front of the camera than you are, or even vice versa. I know outdoor TV couples where the wife is just really not that good.
Oh, boy. Yeah. I'm not sure I'd want to get in the middle of that discussion. You're a brave person if you're willing to step into the middle of that.
No, I didn't even step in the middle of that one.
Michelle, we are running out of time, and I'll tell you what, we haven't even scratched the surface. We could do this in another 10, 15 minutes, but we can't. We're done. So, folks, her website is bulletproofmediablog.com. That's bulletproofmediablog.com. If you want to find out a little bit about Michelle and the services she offers, or even have a discussion with her about getting on TV yourself, she's the one to talk to. Michelle, I've really enjoyed this. Thanks for sharing this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Well, thanks for having me on. This is always fun to talk about.
Looking for the ultimate cooking machine for your backyard or patio? Look no further than Camp Chef's new pellet grill and smoker. With user-friendly features like an auto ignition, digital readouts, and internal meat temperature sensors, it's easy to smoke the tastiest salmon, ribs, brisket, and turkey you'll ever eat. And an innovative system makes cleanup a snap. Everyone will want the food you're cooking on your Camp Chef pellet grill and smoker. The quality smoker that's second to none. Find out more at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
Good hunters know before you take that shot, you've got to see the whole picture. Now, the best way to do that is with a spotting scope, binoculars, or a rifle scope, but it's got to be from Leupold. Now, Leupold is a Northwest company with a reputation that stretches across the world for making superior optics. Look for Leupold Optics at your local Cabela store, Dick's Sporting Goods, or online at leupold.com. Leupold, America's optical authority.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It's time again for news and reports from the field. Brought to you every week by Mardon Resort at Eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir. The temperature is perfect for fall fishing right now. In fact, the walleye fishing on the humps in front of the sand dunes at Potholes Reservoir is as good as it gets. Anglers have been trolling a slow death hook in 8 to 29 feet of water to catch lots of walleye and also jumbo perch up to 14 inches. Another way to do it is to troll diving plugs. Number 4 and number 7 shad wraps have been working great for that. And if you want something a little different, you can head into Lind Coulee and fish in 10 to 14 feet of water for both perch and catfish. Don't forget to bring the shotgun because there's lots of good early season duck and goose hunting going on, as well as pheasant hunting and quail hunting too. Find out more about booking a fall cast and blast, if you will, at mardonresort.com. That's mardonresort.com, where the fish bite, but we don't. Speaking of cast and blast vacations, another place to go is the Summer Lake Wildlife Management Area in southeast Oregon. According to the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, the second week of game bird hunting season was good for waterfowl and upland game bird hunting. A total of 443 hunters checked in, which is up 11% from last year. They reported a total harvest of 636 birds, lots of mallards, pintail, gadwall, and American widgeon. There was also 40 quail and 7 ring-necked pheasants taken, and 28 other migratory birds to include 4 Wilson snipe, which goes to show snipe hunting apparently isn't a joke after all. Prospects for the next couple of weeks are fair. Forecasted weather calls for generally mild conditions, which means a lot of those birds will stay in the area. Don't forget to bring your fishing rod, because the fishing's going to be good for rainbow trout in Anna River that's right there. They just completed a fall stocking of trout in Anna River, which is open all year long. It's a spring-fed stream, and it's really fun to fish in a float tube or just walking the banks. Whether you're fishing spinners or fishing flies, you should have a lot of fun there. Heading to Montana, we've got opening weekend results for deer and elk hunters, courtesy of Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. Hunting harvest was up from last year's opening weekend in west central Montana, and an increase in the Blackfoot accounted for most of the bump. At the Bonner Hunt Check Station, 1,378 hunters checked in 21 elk, 14 mule deer, and 56 white-tailed deer. Hunter trips through Bonner were higher than any other opening weekend since 2010. In Region 3, hunter harvest was up across southwest Montana on opening weekend too. FWP staff and volunteers were busy at 7 check stations across southwest Montana, where harvest numbers were up over 2014 numbers at the check stations operated in Cameron at the mouth of the Gallatin Canyon, in Divide, in Silver City, and in Mill Creek. On the other hand, elk and mule deer harvest was below average on the Rocky Mountain front, where hunters took home fewer of these animals compared to the last 5 years. On the bright side, though, the white-tailed deer harvest was above the 5-year average. Speaking of big game hunting in Montana, did you hear the story about the guy in northwest Montana who dropped a charging moose with a 9mm pistol? I know it's not exactly what you think of as the ideal weapon for this sort of thing, but in this case, it worked, and it probably saved the life of the person who fired the shot and that of his girlfriends. According to the Outdoor Hub, an unidentified young man and his companion were walking their dogs on a popular trail near Victor, Montana in October when they were confronted by an agitated moose. Officials say it was likely the moose was spooked into a defensive response by the dogs, and by the time the canines were reined in, the animal was ready to attack. The dogs were smart. They fled down the trail, but the owner was a little bit slower to act. At only a few feet away, the moose launched into a charge, sent the man backpedaling. The hiker tripped over some roots as he was moving backwards, but had the presence of mind to quickly draw his 9mm pistol and open fire. Most of the shots went wild, but one struck the moose squarely in the throat, severing its jugular and piercing its esophagus. The animal hesitated, turned, and died about 100 yards later. Officials say that evidence from the scene corroborated the man's story, and it seemed that the moose was in full charge when he shot it. If the hiker was unarmed, he would have likely suffered severe injuries. The holiday season is coming up, and outdoor retailer Recreational Equipment Incorporated, also known as REI, they're going to be closed on Black Friday. In a story from the Associated Press and Como News out of Seattle, the Kent-based co-op told members that instead of working, they'll pay their employees on November 27th to be outside. REI also created the social media hashtag OptOutside and a website where people can share their outdoorsy plans for that day. A $2 billion a year company, REI has been named by Fortune magazine as one of the top 100 companies to work for. And with policies like this, I can see why. Way to go, REI. I'm all for it. Next on Northwestern Outdoors, we had to call Michelle Sherman back because, quite frankly, I love the conversation that we had with her earlier in the show, and I just can't let her go without asking a couple more questions about how to get on and stay on TV as an outdoors personality. Michelle, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for calling me back. We've had such a great conversation. I love it.
Now, folks, if you didn't catch the last segment, Michelle Sherman is the owner of Bulletproof Communications. She's a consultant for folks who want to have an outdoors TV show. And we talked about that. But what I want to talk about now is, we talked about how much money it costs to get on the air. Right. And that money, how do most people get it? They either save it, they mortgage their home, or they go after sponsors. And I guess that's the way that most folks do it, isn't it?
Right. Well, there's a lot of second mortgages in outdoor TV, believe it or not. But yeah, sponsorship is the big way because you're given minutes from the network because you buy that 30-minute time slot, right?
Right.
So you're given minutes from the network, and those minutes are yours to sell to sponsors. So that's how you can hopefully make money. So it's product endorsements, commercials, using their product within the TV shows. I know a lot of people complain about that, but it's how these people are earning a living.
I get it. It's kind of the same deal on radio, but radio sponsors don't pay nearly as much as TV sponsors have to. That's for darn sure. So let's talk about having that conversation. Somebody's got a TV show, a brand new TV show, which makes it really tough. What advice do you give them for going to a sponsor and making a pitch for a sponsorship for a season of outdoors television?
If they're going in cold calling, which I don't recommend, I recommend trying to find some way in other than cold calling. But if they're going in cold calling, then you need to understand that they have listened to pitches over and over from people just like you. So how are you going to separate yourself? How are you going to be different? You need to put yourself into their shoes and, anticipate the questions they're going to ask and know yourself, know your product inside and out. How are you going to deliver the ROI to them? How are you going to make them happy?
Right.
It's hard.
Well, and you're right. It's all about making that sponsor happy. And folks, we're not just talking about making a really cool commercial. It goes way beyond that. So here's another question for you. When I go to SHOT Show, I've noticed every time I go, I see more and more pretty faces, and it seems like they're going to the booths, basically hunting up sponsorships. Is this a good tactic? Does it ever work?
Yeah, not, like I said, if you're cold calling, not the best thing to do is just, stop on by and be like, hey, I've got, XYZ show and you need to sponsor it. You need to find a way to get in with them. A lot of people do that by already using the product.
Sure.
So if you are a fan of, let's say, Matthews, for example, or whatever bow company, you better be plastering your social media with so many Matthews pictures that people start to get sick of it.
Yep.
It's fuel for the fire. It's your media kit that you're putting together that you can go and show them, look at what I have been doing for you guys. I'm a great ambassador, so on and so on.
Let me ask you another question, and this doesn't have to do with sponsorship so much, and I understand you have to have the money to get on the air, you do that through sponsorships, but let's say your first season is done, the second season's coming up. Is it a slam dunk that these outdoors television networks are automatically going to pick you up if you have the money to pay them, or do ratings matter?
Oh, that's a trick question. Ratings do matter because you might not get the same time slot. Like, they'll find a space for you. They'll take your money. But you might not have that prime, 8 p.m., Wednesday night or whatever, right?
Right. So
it might be, more like 4 p.m.
Or if it was like me, I could imagine myself coming to you and saying, Michelle, I think I've got a problem. They've got me in a 4 a.m. time slot every day.
Right.
Well, that's good to know because like we were talking about earlier, some shows are definitely better than others out there. So I guess if you want the good stuff, you're going to look at the prime time. And I know it's a lot deeper than that. Once again, we are out of time, Michelle. But folks, if you want to find out more about this whole nutty business of getting on the air with an outdoors television show, go to her website. It's bulletproofmediablog.com. That's bulletproofmediablog.com. And if you want to have a conversation about that, Michelle Sherman is there to help. Michelle, thanks again. Really appreciate you stopping by and talking to us here at Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you.
They were our brothers, our sisters, sons and daughters. They were our parents, family, our neighbors, and our friends. How can we express the gratitude that we all owe the thousands and thousands of American veterans who have sacrificed so much for our country's freedom? It was they who stepped forward from the time this country was created to fight for everything we know about liberty and freedom. And although we celebrate their victories and console them for their losses by creating monuments and honoring them in parades, the truth is we can never do enough for the freedom they've given us. Perhaps the most important thing we can do is reach out to those veterans closest to us and simply tell them, thank you. Thank you for all you've done for freedom. All of us at Shiloh Inns would like to take this opportunity to recognize the many men and women who have served and continue to serve our country so that we will always be free. Thank you, veterans, from everybody at Shiloh Inns.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after, whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
We're back with one last cast from John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Let's run through some upcoming events before we go. 3 Ducks Unlimited banquets are taking place on the 21st of November. If you haven't been to one before, they are a ton of fun. There's always good food, lots of people to associate with who enjoy duck hunting and conservation as much as you do. And best of all, the proceeds from these banquets and the auctions and all the raffles that go on there goes to restoring wetlands habitat for ducks and geese and all sorts of other animals. One of them is taking place in Leavenworth at the Best Western Icicle Inn. That's in north central Washington. That's going to be from 5:30 to 10. Another one in south central Washington is taking place at O'Sullivan Sportsman's Resort near Othello. That's always a popular one. And in Eastern Oregon, there's one on the 21st in Baker City at the Community Connection Center. If you want to find out more about getting tickets, and you do need to do so in advance, you can't show up at the door to get these tickets, just go to ducks.org. That's ducks.org. Look for local events. Just click on the banquet location near you so you can find out about buying tickets to one of these great banquets. I'm going to be busy myself on the 21st. I'm actually going to be at the East Wenatchee Sportsman's Warehouse. I've been asked to judge a chili cook-off that's going to be going on there, and personally, I can't wait. Number one, I love chili, and the thought of trying all sorts of different great-tasting chili sounds like a lot of fun to me. I'm sure a lot of it's going to be cooked on some of the outdoors gear that they have there. I wouldn't be surprised if our sponsor Camp Chef has some stuff there as well. If you want to come out and join me, give me your opinion of what chili you like best. I'm pretty sure they're going to have samples for just about everybody. It's taking place from noon to 4 p.m. Again, that's the Sportsman's Warehouse store in East Wenatchee, Washington. It's a chili cook-off, and it should be a lot of fun. And now, it's time for your trivia question of the week. The Native Americans call this mountain Tahoma, and it's not too far from Tacoma. What is the common name for this iconic mountain in Washington State? If you know the answer, and I hope you do, especially if you're from Washington, go ahead and contact us on our Facebook page at Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Find the post where we have this on, and like our page. Don't like the post, like the page, and give us your answer. You can also contact us on our website, northwesternoutdoors.com. Just go to our Contact Us page. Shoot us an email with the answer. Again, the question is, what is the common name for the iconic mountain in Washington State that the Native Americans call Tahoma, and it's not too far from Tacoma? Everyone who answers correctly is entered for a chance to win the $25 gift card we give away every week, courtesy of Sportsman's Warehouse. While you're on the web, be sure to check out RenoViolaOutdoors.com. That's the home of WRVO Radio. We air 4 times every Wednesday, and we are part of a lineup of well over 30 outdoors radio programs that airs on this internet station 7 days a week. The website again, RenoViolaOutdoors.com. It's WRVO Radio. Great internet channel if you love outdoors radio like I do. That's all for this week. I am looking forward to getting out of my arm cast and getting back in the field to work my Springer Spaniel on some pheasant and quail for my son prior to Thanksgiving. So until next time, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.